Newsflash, how to use your inner voice to make decisions. Today's conversation is sponsored by the Billy Keels Advisory Program. If you want to learn more about how to make your 9 to 5 optional, just go to billykeels.com/advising. Once again, that's billykeels.com/advising. We're back. Newsflash, how to use your inner voice to make decisions. It's one of these topics that comes up very frequently. And the reason that you're listening is this will be one of the most important episodes that you ever listen to, because if you're going through the things that I was going through, self-doubt, didn't know when to use your voice. It's one of those things that was, you knew you wanted to know what to do, but you didn't feel confident enough to actually do it. This is one of the episodes that's truly going to help you. You know why? Because I'm going to share this story, as I frequently do. And this is one about, guess who? A guy I know named Billy, who was actually inside of the corporate walls, and he was really super confident. Every single thing that happened needed to go on inside of the corporate walls, because after 2 decades of being inside of the corporate machine's walls, you start to understand how the game works a little bit. You start to feel much more comfortable. You start to understand every part of the game that happens inside of the 4 walls of the corporate machine. Successful track record, part of the top talent program, had the right connections, had the great opportunity to continue to grow, to have opportunities to be promoted within the company. Even talked about that in episode 471, some of the things that happen once you start to get there, because you realize there's a traffic jam for the top jobs, right? And so as all of these positive things were happening within the 4 walls of the corporation, it was kind of strange, because I started feeling this self-doubt creep in, and I started recognizing that it was more about making the life decisions where the self-doubt crept in, where I started having some questions about, or some limiting beliefs about what I could actually do, actually achieve. And then as I started thinking, like, this dream that I was having of being able to own my own time, have much more control over my time, I started to doubt whether or not the best bet was on me. Right. And the reason for that was because, well, I guess to the outside world, everyone said, well, Billy, you're a sure thing. Like, it's absolutely, like, you will, if you put your mind to something, the next role, the next goal, you're going to achieve it. And so, yeah, that's what I said. Look, I'm going after this new thing. I want to be able to do it. I know that I'm the best bet on the market. So I know I'll be able to accomplish this thing as it related to investing in real estate and making it something that was going to create a way for me to continue to design a life and a lifestyle for myself, for my family. And at the end of the day, I guess what I was really wanting to be able to do, that kind of like the stuff that nobody really asked you about, is I wanted to just be able to prove myself. I wanted to make the decision, prove myself, that I knew that if once I set my mind to it, that I could actually accomplish it. A lot of stuff happens, right? You have these consistent limiting beliefs, even though you know deep down inside, it's like I mentioned before, like, what happens if you don't succeed, and more importantly, what happens when you do? That's a whole different set of circumstances you have to go through. So I decided it was time to bet on myself. And I knew, after thinking about it and overthinking about it and trying to find the absolute perfect formula, as I did as a perfectionist, now, as you know, a recovering perfectionist, can't even say that so fast, recovering perfectionist, it was time for me to actually go out and take action, because I'd been studying real estate from 2008 until 2013. I'd finally gotten to a point, I'm like, look, I can't overthink this anymore. I knew every single formula for every single real estate thing, starting at the revenue minus the expenses, getting to the net operating income minus your debt service. And then as you did that, you got to a point where you were at your net income, or your cash after debt service. Like, I could tell you that in every variation of that, your debt service coverage ratios, all this stuff. I knew every formula. But then when people ask me the question, like, okay, well, what does your portfolio look like? I was embarrassed, because it was like this. And if you're watching the video version, a big fat zero, there was nothing there. Well, this is my show. It's a clean show. So I've got some things I want to say, but I'm actually not going to say them. But I'd used a lot of mental brain power for absolutely nothing. And so because of that, I realized it's time to take some action. It's time to invest some money. And I invested just under $20,000. I think it was 19,252 or something like that, if memory serves me correctly, on my very first rental property. But before I could do that, there was a lot of self-doubt, a lot of all this stuff is not going to go right. What's going to happen? Everything could go wrong. I could lose every single dime. And then it took me back to square zero. Go back to feeling comfortable where I was, which was actually knowing the formulas, going through the formulas, talking to it, selling through it. And I just needed to move forward. So the thing that I was looking for, though, was once again, I had to go back to the proof point, which was going to take me the next step because I kept getting to the same point and then I'd go back, get to the same point and then keep going back. So I finally got to a point where I said, look, there are other people that are out here. There are other people who have gone before me, coming back to my famous POC, proof of concept. I had it, I saw it, and I wanted to go to the place that others had already gone. And they'd come back alive and they continued to live and they continued to thrive. And I was like, I want to get there. I will be there. So I put together this wonderful plan. I knew I needed to get education. So the education I got, and I knew that once it was time to put that money in front of me, the education that I had, I realized that I wanted to start in the game, but I also wanted to create an environment that was going to be a nice single for me, like a base. This is a baseball analogy. So I wasn't looking for a grand slam right at the beginning. I was just looking for a simple single to get on first base. That was it. I just needed something to build some momentum. So I got to a point where, all right, this is the money that I know that if I lose every single dime, life isn't going to change. I'll chalk it up to experience and I'll move on. Sell the property, maybe have to sell it at a loss, but the money that I put in, I've lost it and I'm okay with that. I was okay with it, right? And remember, I'm a kid who comes from a working class family. So every single cent, there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that it took me to get that. Like nothing fell from the sky. This was not money that was inherited, that was somebody else had done all the hard work for. It was me, my blood, my sweat, my tears. And I knew that I would be able to come to grips with actually losing it. I knew that I wanted to put a team together, but I was already in the midst of getting the property. And then at a certain point, I just made the decision I wanted to get the property that was somewhere as close to family as possible. Now, by the way, disclaimer here, I did that absolutely the wrong way. I did 180%, 180 degrees of what you should do. I did it so wrong that I came up with my own framework to help teach other people the exact opposite way that I did that. Because that's the way that I should have done it. And even after education and listening and this was before I had a private coach and a mentor and stuff like that. Well, a coach, I had other mentors, but we didn't talk about that specific kind of stuff. So I got to a point where it was like, okay, look, this was the wrong way to buy, but I had to buy. I had to get in the game. I was ready to go. And I was absolutely petrified, scared, stiff of making a mistake. But I knew I couldn't even face myself anymore. So I had to listen to my own inner voice to say, look, Billy, it doesn't matter what everybody else is telling you. It doesn't matter how many of the formulas that you know. It doesn't matter how much of a guru you think you sound like. Deep down inside, you know that if you don't get in the game, if you don't stand up, if you don't use your voice to say, I'm getting in the game, then you just wasted a lot of time, energy, and effort. Because you can be the theoretical ninja of everything, but unless you actually step in the ring, nobody's going to take you seriously, especially after a while. So I had to look at the man in the mirror. You may look at the woman in the mirror, but it comes to a point where you've got to use your inner voice because it's telling you the right answer anyway. You just got to be able to stand up, listen, and take action. Go against the fear like I did. I definitely did. It was one of those things because I was scared of making a mistake. I didn't want to fail on the outside. And then that would bring and run back to me on the inside of the corporate walls, inside of the four walls of my home. I was afraid to do that. But my inner voice kept saying, this is the one. This is what you've done. You are ready to do this. You're not an expert, but you're ready to take the next step. You got to keep moving. And so I took the next step. But you know what? When I went out and, as they would say, pulled the proverbial trigger to see if I was actually going to get the bullseye, I didn't get a grand slam. But you know what? I got a single. I got on first base. It was one of those super simple singles, learned a lot, made some mistakes. And that was the most important part Because at the end of the day, when I trusted and I listened to that inner voice, when it was the thing that was pushing me forward, that was nagging at me saying, look, it's time for you to move forward. It's time for you to take action. Even if it's on imperfect information, you've got to take action. I did it. And I realized that, yeah, at the end of the day, you know what? I am the best bet. You are the best bet because you're going to be prepared. You're going to find your way. And if you feel like you don't know how to get there, then get your education. Reach out, get yourself someone who can help to advise you, to help see where your blind spots are, that can help move you in those moments when you're freezing and you're not moving forward. They'll help to unlock it so that you can continue to move forward, so that you feel much better and that you're actually making progress. So that's the newsflash. How to use your inner voice to make decisions, even when you're afraid, when you're scared. And if you feel like you can't do it, like I said, get more education, but not too much. Get to a point where you can find someone who is further ahead than you are and that can help you understand where your blind spots are, help you move forward, and help you move closer to your goals. So that's it. I know you're going to be able to understand how to use your inner voice to make decisions. Hopefully this has helped you. Like I always say, take today's episode, share it with family, share it with friends. Afterwards, get on the phone. Don't just share it and follow up. Talk about the things that you hear here, that you see here if you're watching this over on some video channel. And the thing is, while you're doing that, guess where I'm going to be? I'm going to be right here. Yeah, right here, preparing for the next episode. So until then, I want you to make it a great day. And I want to say thank you very, very much. Freedom! Today's conversation was sponsored by the Billy Keels Advisory Program. If you're looking to make your 9-to-5 optional and need some help, just go to billykeels.com/advising. Once again, that's billykeels.com/advising.